Hello landlords, it's Ernie Garcia, your landlord attorney, and today we're talking all about getting rid of a tenant who's actually paying you rent. Let's get started. The whole idea sounds ridiculous, but sometimes you want this tenant out, even a tenant who is on time, ahead of time, paying rent. You no longer want them on your property, and there's lots of reasons. It may be that you want to sell the property, and you believe that by getting rid of this tenant, you're going to have a better likelihood of finding a higher price because the market is hot as it is presently, and in your mind, you're thinking, I'm better off selling now, capitalizing on these gains, and getting out of the landlord business, at least for this property. And if that's the case, that's the case, and you have every right to make that choice. Maybe you simply want to move into the property. You figured that your living arrangements have changed and the house you were otherwise using for rent is now better as your permanent residence. And you've decided, I'm done with leasing this property. I now want to move in. Or perhaps you're in a more complicated situation with your tenant and you simply just don't get along, and they pay their rent on time and they follow the rules mostly, but your personalities just clash and you don't want to deal with them anymore, and so you want to end the tenancy. Today we're going to talk about how you get that done. So if you're wanting to recover your property from your tenant, one of the things you can do is simply terminate the lease on its terms. If the lease is coming to an end, or if the lease has already lapsed into a month-to-month tenancy, it's important for you to know how simply to end your lease. In most cases, it doesn't just happen automatically. Many times there is an automatic renewal that applies if you don't take very specific steps. These steps probably include some written notice in writing, properly delivered to your tenant, with enough time to satisfy the terms of your lease. If you're unsure about these things, you're probably going to want to call a real estate attorney who can help you out to understand the terms of your lease and what it takes to end it. And so once you've sent this notice of termination to your tenant and given them a proper amount of notice in terms of days, and you've delivered it properly, if they still haven't left, then at that point, even though they continue to pay rent and have even tendered rent for a new rental period, you may need to start the eviction process, and your recovery of your property may come by virtue of an eviction because you've properly terminated your lease. Landlords, thanks again for watching. As you always do, make sure you follow us on Instagram, join our Facebook group, and subscribe to this YouTube channel. That thumbs up button, go ahead and click there too and give us a like. Thanks so much. Your second method might not involve rent at all. Again, your tenant is really good at paying rent, but maybe they're not good at anything else in the lease. Non-payment of rent is only one of your many options for eviction. You can terminate a lease and demand possession if your lease includes certain restrictions and prohibits the tenant from doing certain things. For example, if your tenant is violating the covenants of your homeowners association and your lease specifically requires that they adhere to those covenants, and you're getting letters from your HOA, maybe the trash cans are out too long, or there's a trailer out in the driveway that doesn't belong there, or perhaps the property is in disrepair because of the use of the tenant, and each of these things is harming you. You're getting letters from your homeowners association, and they're threatening to assess fines or even sue you in court. These things can be used as a justification for terminating your lease. If you've given proper notice to the tenant and the tenant has not resolved these issues, you probably have a good standing to submit a notice to vacate, and ultimately, if they have not vacated, to file an eviction. Finally, if none of these things apply, if your lease is still well within its term and you want to recover possession, and if you have an otherwise perfect tenant but you want to recover possession, your next best option would be to bargain with that tenant. And so this might actually mean buying them out of their lease. if, say, they have 5 months left, but it's important that you recover possession in the next 60 days, it may be worth it to you to offer moving expenses or to waive rent for those 2 months or to enter into some kind of an agreement that is advantageous for your tenant and for you. Don't hesitate to pull out a notebook and do some quick math to determine what pathway will work for you to accomplish your goal. Landlords, I'm glad that you were here again. As always, I welcome you to call or text our number. There's an email address here that you can also send us a quick message if you're interested in a consultation or just have a question that you haven't otherwise posted in our Facebook group or on our YouTube channel. Go ahead and shoot me an email. I'm happy to receive them, and if I can, to answer those questions for you. But as always, we appreciate all of you who continually watch. And until next time, happy leasing.